toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who formed the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Tonight we're going to attend to what an icon calls the Spirit of guidance. It's perhaps one of the most fundamental aspects of our training and our growth and development is being able to relate to and be guided by this, what he calls the Spirit of guidance. He said the Spirit of guidance may be called, in other words, the divine mind. And as the human mind is completed after coming to earth, so the divine mind is completed after manifestation. Elsewhere, he says, thy light is in all forms. And it reminds me of Jesus and the flowers. He says, consider the flowers in the field. They spin and knot, they spin and toil not. Yet Solomon in all his glory is not so finely arrayed as they. So he's talking about a system. It's between the earth and the sky, between the earth and the sun and the rain and the seed. And there's an intelligence between all of that that allows for the flower to blossom, to find fulfillment. And an icon says, so the divine mind is completed after manifestation. In fact, the Creator's mind is made out of his own creation. The experience of every soul becomes the experience of the divine mind. And therefore, the divine mind has the knowledge of all beings. Elsewhere, he says the message is like the rain, and the rain falls where it's needed and when it's needed. But does the rain come from above? It seems to come from above, but it rises from below first as the vapor, forming into clouds as ideas, and then falling above us as the rain. So there's this interplay between the earth and the heavens and the earth. Looking at it from a modern philosopher's perspective, Ken Wilber, life is a hierarchical system. It's a system where information flows from both directions, from below and from above, and it meets. And an icon says it meets in the mind of God. But the meeting place is also a place of synthesis and creativity. So it takes that information, all the information that's in the mind of God and the information that flows from the earth, and it creates new life. He goes on to say, the divine mind is a storehouse of perfect wisdom. It's the soul of Christ and the spirit of prophecy, intuition, inspiration, vision, and revelation. All come from the same source whence every kind of revelation comes, and that's the divine mind. There are some who receive knowledge from the divine mind indirectly, and some who receive it directly. And those souls which happen to receive the central current of the spirit of guidance, the spirit of prophecy is conceived. The messengers of all times, of whom we hear in the histories and traditions of the world, have been souls in whom the central current of the divine light has functioned. In other words, the prophets of all ages have been the reflections of the divine mind on earth. No one has ever seen God, and if evidence of God's existence has ever been manifested, it was in the man who reflected God. So the prophet, it's known in all the old Sufi teachings, the prophet, or also what's called the Insan al-Kamil, the perfected human, faces God as a mirror and then receives from God as a mirror and then turns to the earth and gives the light of that mirror. Apart from all what the prophets have taught, it was their personality which proved their prophecy. In their thoughts, speech, and action, they reflected God, which was more than morals, doctrines, and teachings could do. And this in Sufism, and actually Inayat Khan brings it up in three different sections of his work. It's called Akhlaq Allah. And Akhlaq Allah is available to all of us, really. And that is acting in a manner that is resonant with our inner awakened state. And that begins to what's called, and Inayat Khan calls it cultivating the personality. The Prophet Muhammad said, characterize yourself with the divine characteristics. And that's something that you do through your thinking. You can correct your thinking to bring it into a line to your sense of reality, your speech, and your behavior. Every inspired person reflects in his own way some divine spark hidden in his soul. And this is a big sentence, even though it doesn't look that big. Every inspired person reflects in his or her own way. This goes back to what others have called, and particularly Ibn al-Arabi called, the signature of the soul. That when God said, kun, be, he embedded within each soul a unique signature. And we came to earth with a unique heavenly predisposition. And this is brought to our attention also through Inayat Khan's work on the soul wincing wither. And when we're true to that signature of our soul, we're true to the light of the divine mind. A musician may show his inspiration in music. One time, I was doing an online class on divine glorification. And what I put, and I put music in my class from different places in my class to help break up the text a little bit. When I was looking for a piece of music that demonstrated what I consider divine glorification and inspiration, I found a piece of music that Miles Davis, the jazz trumpetist, was playing in a crowd in Germany, maybe 10,000 people. He was playing time after time. And as he started playing it, you could see that he was getting into it deeper and deeper to the point where he was just the music. you could see that this was his mode of glorification. The central ray of light, which the prophets reflect, falling on every plane and every aspect of life, makes all things clear in their sight. And that light of divine inspiration, that light of the divine spirit makes things clear in our sight as well. Therefore, the presence of the prophet clears away perplexity from the minds of those who are confused. In his presence, a person can feel and think more clearly, even without having spoken to him. Many forget their questions before a prophet, for the light falling on their heart brings them the answer, and they realize that the answer was in themselves, something that they already knew. And that sentence reminds me of something that Plato once said. He said, knowledge is an act of remembrance. So all of a sudden, it comes to you, it's like an aha. You say, oh, yeah. It makes perfect sense to you. You have a sense that you knew it all the time. Somehow a veil was lifted. The light of the divine mind helped lift that veil. This divine mind is something that a very ancient mystic, Sufi mystic, lived about 200 years after the prophet, named Saul Al-Tustari. He gave perhaps the first mystical interpretation of the Quran. And in that, he talked about Nuri Muhammad. And I kind of talks about Nuri Muhammad too, but I couldn't find it today when I was trying to find it. But I know he talks about it. Saul Tustari said, the divinity, in seeking to know itself, the first thing it created was an infinite light, a being of infinite light. This was Nuri Muhammad. This light, he took some of the substance of this light and created the cosmos in the heavens. And then he created Adam. Adam embodied this light, became the light of prophecy. And all of Adam's progeny contained that light. Adam's progeny are Adam is the prototypical human, the first prophet. And all of the prophets in line since Adam embody this light. But more than the prophets are the progeny of Adam. All the master saints are also the progeny of Adam. They all embody this light to some degree. The spiritual guides embody this light. In fact, everything embodies this light. Inayat Khan said, thy light is in all forms. So you see it everywhere. But you see it in the relationship you have with your guide. You see the light that is embodied, that comes through that being, but you see it as a reflection in the mirror of your own being, as a reflection of the mirror of your own being. That light is within all of us. I would like to do a practice, 2 practices actually. And before I do, I'll just say a couple of words that I've probably said many, many times. But I'll say them probably many, many more. And the first one is that all the great Sufis say the same thing, that the the heart is a mirror. They call it the mirror of the heart. Rumi calls it the mirror of the heart. Ibn Arabi calls it the mirror of the heart. You hold that mirror within you, the mirror of the heart, and it gives you a reflective capacity. So the first thing we do is we're going to clarify with the breath, and then we're going to open to the boundless state of the heart, which is what's called the mirror of the heart. And then we're going to place these sacred sounds within that space. But we're not just going to say the sacred sounds within that space. We're going to pause after the articulation and taste. The word is dak in Arabic, to taste the divine. And the way we taste it is by being present to what becomes present in our heart, what responds to the call of the divine name. God in the Quran says, if you take one step toward me, I will take 10 steps toward you. So there's a call and a response. But it's not enough for there to be a call and a response. It demands your presence, that you can taste that response, that you're present to that presence. And when two presences come together, something is born, some information is communicated. So first we watch our breath through the nose, maybe just a little below the nostrils. Watch the breath come in and go out. And when you can sense that breath, we would call that a felt sense. Now, under the radiance of your presence, the breath changes, and those changes we're going to call felt shifts. All the levels of nafs that have been outlined by Hazrat and his teachings are found in the breath, spanning from nafs al-amara to nafs salim. And when we are present, the density of the breath dissipates. And the breath becomes lighter, both in terms of density and radiance. And it becomes finer and more subtle. And we begin to be aware of the vibrations within the breath, the very fine vibrations. And these are what Inayat calls the magnetism of the breath, or the life of the breath. All this can happen just simply by being present to the inflow and the outflow of breath. And noticing the changes from density to refinement to radiance to life. Notice the impact of that fine breath has upon your body. Those of you who have meditated a long time may be aware of your electromagnetic field. It shifts with the energy of the breath. It changes, it resonates with the breath. The emotions shift with the breath. And the mind becomes lucid, clear, focused. And we cast this luminous breath upon Latifa Surya in the center of the breast, massaging it on the in breath and on the out. At first, you may not exactly know where is this Latifa Surya, this subtle neural plexi. But just close your eyes and look inside, and eventually your intuition might find it in the imaginal realm. If you could imagine where it was, what would you feel? Where would you be? And breathe on it in the imaginal realm. And then as you breathe on it, on the in breath and the out breath, caressing it like the morning breeze caresses your cheek. It moves from the imaginal to the sensory realm. You can feel it. Breathe on it more, massage it more with the breath. And this is what the ancient ones call breathing on the ember of the heart. And when you breathe on it, it warms up. That whole area becomes warmer. That warmth is radiant discharge. Little particles floating off the surface of the mirror of the heart. On the out breath, you release those particles, those impressions. On the in breath, you penetrate more deeply. You notice this area is not only warm, but it begins to soften. Softening is a subjective experience of space developing. When you're aware of that space, let your in breath penetrate, go deeper into it. The out breath, open it more fully. And be present to the space more than to the latifa, the neural plexi. And when you are, that space unfurls. In all directions. Goes beyond the skin. It traverses the physical body, but it's not of it. It traverses time and space, but it's not of that either. It neither is born nor does it die. It's just a vast, boundless domain of the heart. And the heart is filled with light. A great Sufi dervish, Bastami, said, the heart has a light of its own. It's got the light of the secrets that God placed there. When the light of the heavens flows upon the light of the heart, it's a light upon a light. And that was his commentary on the Surah An-Nur. So allow yourself to rest in this vast space, light, buoyancy. This is what Rumi calls the mirror of the heart. It includes not just what you would normally think of as the heart, but it also includes all the divine names. Those are the secrets. It includes light, which means perception. Sometimes they call it the eye of the heart. Sometimes they call it the ear of the heart. It includes consciousness and luminous mind. And the Quran, God said, my heavens and my earth were not large enough to contain me, but the heart of my beloved is. This is where the divinity sits. This is where the spirit of guidance sits. This is the meeting place between heaven and earth. So first we'll say the Wazifa Yamusi, attuning to the divine omniscience. Remember, an icon said God listens to everything God has created. And that's the way that God's mind is developed. So we place that sound in this space. You can do it at your own rhythm. I'm going to do it mine. Yamusi. I'm tasting. Yamusi. 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 Allow yourself to be carried into the state of divine omniscience. Yamusi. Now drink, which means allow that which is present in the mirror of the heart to penetrate, deeply inform your being. Allow it to permeate throughout your being. Amen. The next and last practice for tonight is Allahumma zidni al-ilm bi-nur. Allahumma is another way of saying, Oh Allah, Ya Allah. But Allahumma zidni means, Oh God, advance me. Allahumma zidni al-ilm and knowledge bi-nur through your divine light. Again, you can choose whatever rhythm you wish. We'll say it a few times. Allahumma zidni al-ilm bi-nur. 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 Last time. Allahumma zidni al-ilm bi-nur. Sharp, drink the divine. Let it permeate every cell of your being, penetrating and informing Amen. I'll end this part and we'll enter into Sobit with a quote from Inayat. One begins to develop that divine light which expands itself, throwing itself upon life, making the whole of life a scene of divine sublimity. Okay, now we're entering into the second part of the class, which is hearing from you. Well, what's it like? What's going on? Is it just emptiness inside? Just a minute, Hadi, I'll get to you. One thing that we should consider is that our practice is a preparation. It's the way God is teaching us. And we end recitation with presence and silence because remembrance, as Abu Qadir Jalani has said, has many levels to it. And the first one is articulation. And when we have two presences meet, something is communicated. And when I say drink, something is communicated there too. If you were running under the hot sun, which is probably something that many people do these days, and you didn't have any water and got dehydrated, and then you drank, every cell in your body would go into ecstasy. Life has a way of drying us out as well. And it's the drinking of the divine presence that revivifies and rehydrates our spirit. The question is, can you feel that? Okay, Adi. I lost. So,
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute. Yes, basically, without going into detail now, I don't see you, but I'm sure you're there. Um, the answer to your question is yes. I felt that I felt a quenching and just settled down into a state of peace and calm, like I was being carried away with with a river, but carried away in a good way. So yeah,
well,
that's
that's a little unfair for you because you just got off a retreat and then a seminar and you just got home.
yep, pretty much.
Let me talk to the people who've been dehydrated. Okay. How's it going out there in the dry lands? Spirit of guidance. Is this something you've ever thought about? Do you have a sense of it? Yes, Salima.
Well, two things. It used to be so easy to breathe and ex taste and experience, and it feels like it's been forever since it's been easy. Uh, but I just keep plugging away. Lately, yeah, it's been tense at home, and there've been health issues that we're dealing with. So I don't know if that plays into it, that we're sort of in fight or flight mode a lot of the time, um, but not all the time. I just find that after all these years, it's so hard to practice and to feel anything. Usually I feel whatever I feel it maybe hours later, something arises inside me and it's like, oh, okay. There's something.
Well, you've been, I think you were trained as a masseuse.
Yes.
So you know the power of touch, even a light touch, even almost an imperceptible touch. And just imagine that's what's happening inside as well as outside. And just relax. So much we think in terms of production. I just led somebody on a 40-day retreat, and he was hoping to produce something, have some sort of grand mystical something. And I said, why don't we just relax? One thing, even just the space of the heart, if we can enter into that space, we can find that we can rest in it. It's good to have a place that it's like we'd call a felt refuge to everyday life, to all of our problems. It isn't so much a discipline because the discipline is goal oriented. And we don't know what the goal is. We have to let God show it. So it's a question of just resting and being present. Whatever is there is there. And there's usually a great deal there that we have to deal with in everyday life. I certainly understand that in terms of health and jobs to do. Ananda.
Um, Thank you. Um, I've been on a healing journey for a while now, and I recently came to the conclusion that I was just so thankful and grateful and happy to be as healthy as I am and feeling really grateful to just be alive on the planet. Um, what is the proper orientation to the concept of the spirit of prophecy? How do you know that it's not your lower ego that is at work?
Well, I wouldn't think of myself as embodying the spirit of prophecy, but I do think that I can somehow feel like I can recognize it. For instance, I do see in Inayat something of that. It seemed to me that he was articulating a whole new paradigm of possibilities for the planet. And it was so universal and so wide and encompassing, so kind, loving, harmonious, and beautiful that I saw in him the spirit of prophecy. What I must say about us is that we do have the possibility of hearing and embodying spirit of guidance. And yeah, sometimes we're off. And we soon find that out. And sometimes we're not. Over time, we can tell what is our ego. In fact, as I already said, in the breath, all the egoic structures exist. So you're never really out of your ego. You're either in a dense form of ego, nafsa amara, which is defensive and reactive, or you're in something finer. And it's fairly easy to sense which is which.
Thank you.
Toronto.
So these practices touched on questions that probably I live with and many other people live with. Touching the vast expanse of the heart, and then having the knowledge of what the physical heart, it's not as big as what you get into when you go into these practices. But I somehow got the understanding of how that is with these practices. It was like, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but like it was as if a sail opened up and I was everywhere. But then there wasn't I anymore either. So there was an ecstasy without subject or object.
Well, who experienced that ecstasy?
I don't know. I'll sit with it.
Hanifa Kaima.
I got two names these days.
I noticed, yeah. You
Um,
must have grown.
I guess, I don't know. I would just say that the first going in, I just felt like I kind of melted into the heart, like there was this melting. And there was, in that melting process, there was just a softening, just this softening into a pool, like a pool of water that was just perfectly still and very relaxed. And then in the second practice, I, well, I'll just put the words that are there on that come. I felt like there was like little mirrors on the top of my head that were reflecting light into the pool of water, and it was a very pleasurable feeling. And there was no effort to it. It was just revealing itself. And I feel very grateful for that experience and blessed. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's very much emblematic of what Bastami was talking about when he said the heart has a light of its own, the light of God's secrets, and when the light of the heavens, which is the transcendent light above the crown, flows upon the light of the heart, it's a light upon a light. And that light upon a light is a phrase in the Surah An-Nur in the Quran. It's a very beautiful phrase and a wonderful experience when it comes. I've been waiting for you, Basira. So go for it. But you have to unmute yourself.
Um, so for a long time, I've been thinking of the spirit of guidance as the body of all the illuminated souls. That's the invocation, part of the invocation. But I've been puzzling about it. Um, so I really loved understanding it as the Latifa Syria, right? That's where it dwells. Um, and of course, it's not separate, right, from all the illuminated souls. But I guess I do wonder why our invocation specifically seems to point to all the illuminated souls being the spirit of guidance. Perhaps I mistake it.
No, I don't think so. In fact, some of the stuff we read tonight, he talks about those who have the central beam of the divine mind as being the prophetic lineage. And then I also added Saul Tustari's teaching about how the progeny of Adam also embody that light. And the progeny of Adam, as I pointed out, is not just the prophets, but it's also the masters and saints and guides along the path.
Hmm. So I've been having this feeling of the illuminated souls being this field of guidance that surrounds us.
It's a good feeling.
It is.
So,
It's really relaxing into the confidence of feeling God around you, right?
Yes, and more than God in a sense. Yes, God. And also, I know that Inayat Khan said to his first Marid, Murshida Martin, that her advancement on the path came about because of all the blessings of the masters in Silsila. So we all, whether you realize it or not, when you took bayat, you became part of a silsila. You became part of this web of illumination, and the baraka of the silsila flows upon you.
Oh, web of illumination. That's beautiful. Well, and then things come, right? I feel like I've had guidance in so many different forms, dreams or of a voice that wasn't my brain or a gift in the path, finding something, somebody saying something. It comes in so many forms. And I think much more so since I took Biot. But it was before that too, is probably how I found this path. Really, now I think about it.
Quite possibly. And sometimes the spirit of guidance is not an easy thing to deal with. Sometimes it comes in a form that puts us back upon ourselves, and we have to go deeper. Okay, thank you, Zahira.
Yes, I was part of the wonderful weekend in Kansas with Hadi and Hamayat. And then Monday was a day of travel, and I have some health issues. And so by the time I got home, like Tuesday and Wednesday, I've been just totally crashed and not connected at all with spirit as far as I knew. And then when we did practice, all of a sudden everything was there back again and more. And I felt I could really drink, and I felt so much joy. Um, so I thank you. And I guess I don't have to feel guilty about not doing my practice all the time.
No, you don't. I know that you deal with a lot of health issues that can be quite overcoming. Ah, Basira, you need to unmute yourself again.
Instead of going black. So you said something so intriguing at the end of our my last question. Sometimes the spirit of guidance throws you back upon yourself or itself. Would you talk some more about that?
Well, it reminds me of another great Sufi from Central Asia, Ahmad Samani, who talked about compassion. And he said sometimes God's compassion is a bitter medicine, but it's necessary nevertheless to take it. So we're always looking for a way out, but sometimes something comes in and really allows us to face ourselves and face our nafs in a way that we wouldn't normally. We've become masters of avoiding it. So
So, for instance, when we realize we have to leave a situation that is going to be a hard thing to do, that kind of thing.
that could be, yeah.
I don't know. I think you meant something more, but maybe one finds out.
There's all kinds of ways of meaning. One time I gave a training in Mill Valley for about 3 days. About 30 people came, and one of them was a court stenographer, and one was a psychiatrist. The court stenographer was not a Sufi, and I made pains to say, well, if anything I say, because I use a lot of Arabic words you don't understand, to the whole group, please raise your hand. In 3 days, no one raised their hand. You can understand how that might be. So anyway, at the end of the retreat, the court stenographer, whose profession is to write what was said in court. But anyway, and you're presuming that she's good at it. She came and she said, can I share my notes with everybody? And I read her notes and I was amazed because she didn't know any of the Arabic words. So she decided to use her creative imagination and decide what they were. And then went on and on. And I thanked her very much. And I said, let me think about it. And then the psychiatrist came up, who was a Sufi Marid, and she was proud of her notes, wanted to know if she could share them. And I looked at them. And again, I saw things that I didn't believe I ever said. So I realized, I said, oh, I think I probably need to write the notes. But thank you. And what I realized is there was 30 people there. There were 30 different seminars going on. So meanings are all over the place. It did make me wonder about the people who took notes, shorthand notes at Inayat Khan's lectures. Oh, Abu Hani, I can finally see you. Welcome. What
Thank
time is
you.
it? What time is it in Nigeria?
It's about 8 minutes after 1. That is
Oh,
1 a.m.
that's
It's
not too
around the 1.
that's not too bad. Do you have any questions, Abu Hani?
Uh, Not really, but just to make my observation too. What I have been feeling or observing most time is when you enter a certain a prayer or practice, what you experience today might be a bit different what you experience after another practice. In my own case, when I started, I think it's about 2 years now, when I started Enya, I could feel some subtle, like immediately after a prayer, maybe more relaxed, maybe some of the allergen changes, but now, because I am always expecting, each time I'm into practice, expecting to see maybe an immediate change around me or feelings around me. But most time, it could be when I'm sleeping. I could see something in my dream that could mean that I have advanced where probably I was before. But generally, like the question of what are you feeling today after practice? But what I can say generally is I am no longer the type of person I was like 2 years ago. I'm not saying this practically myself, but some persons around you could say you are a bit different. The way you approach things now are different from the way you used to do it. So generally, there is a great effect on changes since I joined this part of this journey. A great things have happened. So generally, I feel more relaxed. I feel more like I'm getting some kind of allergy that I was losing. I'm also be a bit confident that I am on the journey or the place I am supposed to be. Because in my NS life, I always feel that something is missing. Like as I said before, I think that is what brought me to this group or this platform or this journey that I met everyone right now. Because I was always like, this is the message I got. I need to validate it. But now, gradually, if a certain practice or a certain prayer is given, it doesn't give the same thing that the other prayer does. Like in our last class where you gave us a practice like Ya Kudus. The experience I felt within that period was so different that I could actually feel that there are openings, there are energy changes. Like as I said, generally, people around say you are change a bit, which means this prayer and practice are really doing a lot. But sometimes you could not explain. Like if you ask me today, how do you feel? I may not be able to explain it exactly how I feel, but I know some things have changed. So I think that is what I
Thank
could
you.
say. Thank you very much, Hamayat. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us on our journey. Now you're part of the journey. Okay. Anyone else want to say something? Okay, let's end with a supplication that Paramersha gave us. Pour upon us thy love and thy light 7 times. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. 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 Pour upon us thy love, thy light. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. One announcement I need to make, and that is I'm about to undergo some medical treatment for a month, and I won't be in the space to be able to offer this class in the second week of September. So it will continue the second week of October. Have a good evening or day or whatever it is you're going to have. God bless.